Hey there, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Thrive Podcast. Today we have a wonderful guest. Her name is Jill Ethier, and she is a personal strategist, and she blends a lot of energetic and strategic tools into her work with clients and her programs, and I absolutely love her approach. And one of the things that she teaches that I absolutely love and have a passion for is Feng Shui. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about how your home is a reflection of your life and how you can start taking steps to clear the energy and make some shifts to make your home more supportive of your health, life, and relationships. So Jill, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you? I'm so glad to be here.
Yes, I'm so glad that I was able to get you on because I absolutely love just your videos and your energy and your vibe and just your no-nonsense approach. I absolutely love it because I'm a little bit like that too. It's like, don't give me any BS. There's no excuses. So can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to doing this particular type of work that you're doing right now?
So this has been a bit of a journey for me. So I call myself a personal strategist. Some of my clients call me their energetic ninja. My corporate clients call me their corporate witch doctor. And it's really about blending energetic and strategic tools and techniques. So my background, I actually have a BCom in marketing and finance, and I used to be a director of marketing. So I was a full-on strategist. And then life took some interesting turns, and I ended up delving more into the energetics of what was going on with your life and how you could use that. And then I melded the two and realized that if we used energy strategically, we could really go after what it is we truly want. And I did a lot of work with corporate. I did a lot of personal growth and team development in corporate. And now I've taken the shift and I'm like, I want to bring it to women in particular. You know, I still have some guys who definitely get in on the action, but women who are wanting something more. Women who are in a position where they're ready to do something different. They like the idea and concept of using energy to do it, but they need a structure and a rhythm and routine and a framework and somebody who won't put up with their stories. Because a lot of it is a story, and you have in the next moment and the next step the ability to shift whatever it is 1 degree, which means you are going in a completely different direction in your life. So it's an interesting way to create the life that you truly want. And with that, then, you know, a lot of the women that I work with also have businesses, so we do a lot of the fun business stuff too. But I always say that, yeah, everything starts with whoever you are. So if you want your business to succeed, you need to work on you. If you want your relationship to succeed, you need to work on you. You know, obviously your health and well-being, that all comes down to what you need to do for you as well. So really when we get right down to it, whatever success we want out there in life comes down to where we're at. So how can we, you know, shift your mindset to where we need it to go? How do we exploit your skill sets instead of worrying about what you're not good at? And how do we discover what I call your soul set, which is your purpose and what you're actually going to do about it?
Yeah, and I absolutely love that. That's why I really resonate with you, because we have a similar approach about that inside out. If you want something to change, you have to start with you. You can't be pointing the finger and blaming the weather and everyone in your life and the economy and the political, you know, mood and the, you know, financial situations or anything, like blaming and forcing that, you know, mindset of like, I'm powerless in this. Whereas this, to me, what I'm hearing you say is this is a lot about empowerment, just another way of saying it, right? Of like, it's up to me to choose a different way of being and doing.
Yeah, it's your life.
Yeah.
Like, I get that there's circumstances that you feel like you've been put in, and regardless of whether that's true, whether that's not, it doesn't matter. You have every choice to choose something different in the next step. And if you're choosing to stay, then you choose to figure it out, or you choose to take a step out of where you're at. But there's a choice in every step. And I've been through some tough stuff, and I realized in every step of that, there was a choice of how I was going to react, what I was going to do about it, and how much I was going to let them get to me. Right? Like, I'm in control of what goes on up here and what comes from my heart. And so that's where true power resides, is understanding that it all comes from you. Yes. So you get to decide what it all looks like because you're the one who's seeing it.
Yes. Perception is everything. I always like to say we get to choose how we're going to perceive everything that's going on. Mm-hmm. You know, because in my line of work, definitely, we end up doing a lot of that emotional and mental work, right? Because I deal with people who a lot of times have like depression, or they're just feeling stuck in their life and they have no idea where to start. Maybe they're feeling really powerless about their situation. And so we just kind of start where they're at and, go from like, where are you now and what do you have to work with right now, rather than them feeling like they have to overhaul their whole entire life and start, doing a workout routine that's going to be like way over their head, and overhauling your whole entire diet, and, leaving that relationship that sucks. But it's like, well, what can you do right now? You can't really do it all at once, but what can you do right now with what you have in your hands? Like you said, that 1 degree, just little shifts add up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I just actually was talking about a group of clients yesterday, and I said, it's all about accountability and structure and rhythm and framework, and really them going after what they want. But I said there's a choice between being idealistic and realistic with what can actually happen. And I want you to be realistic with a push. Okay. Yes. So I want you to feel pushed, because if you're too realistic, you're just sitting in your comfort zone and nothing's going to change. So it's realistic with a push of, I know I could possibly do this if I really put the blinders on and focused on it. And I'm going to step outside of my comfort zone so I get used to what that feeling is, because that's where actually true growth and life really resides, is outside of what we're comfortable with. But when you get that idealistic thought of what you want to look like, or how you want your health to be, or what that relationship is, or how your business will be, and it's idealistic, it's too far away, so it actually stops you before you even begin. Right? And then if you're too realistic, it's boring.
Yes.
So you don't do it anyways, because you're like, oh, I could do that all day long. That's why it's realistic with a push.
Yes.
Right? Realistic with a stretch. Because that's how you start taking the next step. Like, life is a series of next steps. That's all it is. It's not, you can grow by leaps and bounds, but leaps and bounds are made up of a series of steps. So it's just one step in front of the other. And you made a good point, which we can segue into the Feng Shui, was the fact of some people don't know where to start.
Yes.
And that's why I love Feng Shui as a practice, is because you can start in your space, which becomes a little less tricky than dealing with some of the mindset stuff, sometimes dealing with the emotional stuff, dealing with the harder things that you need to do. But when you start moving things around in your space, what happens is the state of your home reflects the state of your life. So as you start, and the biggest one to really start creating a shift in your life, is to declutter. Yes. Is to get rid of the things in your life that are holding you back. Okay? So when you start to declutter in your space, you're starting to drop away some of that emotional stuff. Heck, I've seen pounds drop away on clients, like 20, 30, 40 pounds when they have houses that are cluttered up. Right? So you start releasing things. And then what happens is as the energy gets lighter in your space, your personal energy increases, because you're vibrating at a different level, because your space is vibrating at a different level, because everything is energy, right? So
can I just interject with that? Because there's something about that I want to dig into, because you and I both have experience with adrenal fatigue. Mm-hmm. And I know I do deal with women who are burned out and they're exhausted, and maybe their houses are totally just out of control, maybe, right? Because I think about when I was really burnt out, I just couldn't keep up with everything. And it was like adding to my lack of energy.
Yeah.
So what would you say to women who maybe are in that space of like, they know their home is not how they want it to be, but they're just so tired and burned out that they don't even know where to start? Because you're saying clearing it actually increases energy. So how do we make that shift into, I'm like too exhausted too, but if I do this, then it's going to help me energetically?
I think it's making that commitment to start small, right? So I had really severe adrenal fatigue, so I know what the tired is. So it's like, just decide you're going to do one drawer at a time, right? Depending on how tired you are, or one closet at a time. Or you set aside 30 minutes on the weekend, which I'm sure you can find, because even with kids, and I've got 3 of them, we have everything decluttered. And this has been through the years. Like, my kids are 17, 9, and 7 now, but I've been doing Feng Shui for 11 years. So we've been decluttering for that long and keeping it decluttered. So kids will learn with you, and they actually kind of like it. It's funny. They're like, oh, look at all this stuff. They're so excited. They're coming out of the woodwork, right? But when you're tired already, start simply. So here are the simple spots to start. Start with underneath the bathroom sink, like that cupboard underneath. The little bottles you get, And you know why you start there is it may feel like there's a lot of stuff, but it's an easy one to choose what stays and what goes. Okay, so it's an easy way to lighten up the energy. And I will guarantee if you guys go clean under your sink today, or even as you're listening to this, like just go start cleaning under your sink. You will go back and check that cupboard a few times later because it feels good in there. Like it's the funniest thing. And everyone's like, oh my God, I totally thought you were weird when you told me that. And I do it all the time. And I'm like, so start under there. And here's the golden decluttering rule. Do I love it? And do I use it?
Yeah.
Okay. Do I love it means it vibrates with really good energy for your space. And do I use it means it has a place in your home. So you make a place for it. So start with the easy stuff. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to tackle like that crazy cluttered storage room down in the basement. Don't start there. If you're tired, start with one drawer at a time, underneath the kitchen, underneath the bathroom sink, and then the next bathroom. And then you might go to the junk drawer, and then you'll, hit up the pantry because you get a little more motivated, right? Like do it in a series of steps, but just commit to doing it. But you open a drawer takes like 5 minutes, right? But 6 drawers in a week, and look how far you've come.
Right. And what I hear you saying is to not start with the stuff where we have like more of an emotional attachment. Mm-hmm. Like that's what I find really hard. I've kept stuff that were like my kids' stuff as babies, and I've got like a big massive tote bin of their art, all 3 kids. And just to like, what do you do with that stuff? Right. And it is taking up space. It's taking up storage space, but I don't have the heart to just chuck it. Right. So what do you do with those things that we do have more of an emotional attachment to?
Well, you wait till the end with some of those things, definitely, right? So you're going to make your way through your house. So you're going to do the bathrooms, you're going to do your closets, the dressers, the linen closets, the kitchen, the pantry. You'll go through that whole process first. And then you get to the memorabilia. And what we do in our houses is everybody has 1 to 2 Rubbermaid bins each that are their memory bins. So they get to choose, right? And then I have 2 bins of baby stuff, right? That I've kept from the 3 girls, and then they have their memory bins. But it's a matter of like, we made a decision of how many bins actually fit well in our storage. They're all the same Rubbermaids. Everyone has a label. It's funny. I have 1 bin. My husband has 2. I apparently am not as, but you have to remember that like the memory still resides with you.
Yes.
Right. So then you become a choice of, do I really need the thing to remember or not? When it comes to stuff like the artwork, this is where the whole kind of digital age that we have now, you could take pictures of it all, make a slideshow, and be done with it. That takes some time, but if you have an older child, that's a great task for them to do.
Yeah.
And so my kids know, like they make me things all the time, and they're like, can you keep it till tomorrow at least, Mom?
Yeah. I know. I feel so bad now because there's very little things that I actually keep anymore because I know there's that other pile.
But I want to just touch on that. So the thing is I do keep it. I do treasure the ones that are very specific, the ones made for my birthday, the ones made for very special things. But like I get a lot of artwork in a day from like 2 young kids, right? But what I'm also teaching them is not to be attached to things.
Yes.
Right? And here is, Kate, if there was one other key Feng Shui rule, it's, do I love it or do I use it? That's how you get rid of things. And then how you maintain a decluttered space is the 1 in, 1 out rule.
Right.
So if you purchase something, something leaves. So once you get the state of your home to a place where it's only 70% full, so every cupboard is only 70% full, there's space for your home to breathe, for you to breathe, for your different areas of your life to breathe, because in Feng Shui, a different area of your home is reflective of a different area of your life. Then you have the 1 in and 1 out rule, which is hard for a shoe lover like me. I use that every time because I do really love shoes that much. It's like, if I buy another pair, one has to leave because there's only so much room for all of the shoes.
Yes.
Okay. So it's a good way to manage it. The kids know it too. Like they get new toys at their birthday. They know that same pile or kind of amount of things is going to be leaving. Like it's time to donate, right?
Yeah.
And so it's teaching your kids it. So don't feel bad because my kids know that it's going to hit the recycling bin, like the little piece of artwork. I am teaching them how to manage the stuff and their desire to have stuff at a very young age. This changes your buying habits too, right? It's quite a phenomenal kind of experience once you really get going, is you're very purposeful in what you're bringing into your space, which then means you're also very purposeful with the other things you're doing, including like how you're eating, what you're thinking about. Like it starts shifting everything for you.
And I love this because it's really just goes more into this idea that I absolutely love. And I remember I did hear it many years back when I first was really intrigued by Feng Shui. And then you saying it again in one of your programs that I took just really just hit me one more time about your home being a reflection of your life. And, you know, when you look at that, like you just said, like how you do one thing is how you do everything. That's something that I like to use a lot in my writing and teaching, because how your home is may very well be related to how you treat your body. If you are stuffing all kinds of food in without being conscious of what's actually going in there, right? Where are you stuffing other stuff in your home that you don't want to deal with? And so to me, I see this connection all the time. I wish I could turn it off sometimes, but I can see it the moment I'm speaking to someone. I'm like, okay. But I'd love to hear your take on that, because you know, you say that a lot in your teaching around the Feng Shui teachings, is like your home is a reflection of your life. So can you go into a little bit more about what you mean by that?
Well, it's just really, from a Feng Shui standpoint, Feng Shui is all based on the Bedouin map, which is 9 areas of your life, which is abundance, self-discovery, relationships, creativity, community, wisdom, assistance, purpose, and well-being. And so if these are the energies that are vibrating in our space, when you walk into somebody's home and it's cluttered, and usually when it's cluttered, it's a bit dirty because it's hard to clean around the clutter, right? Well, what is that person saying about how they feel about themselves and how they feel about their life and what they truly want, right? Like there's an automatic actual judgment that happens when people walk in, and whether that's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. It's like the 5-second rule. If somebody, you know, judges you in 5 seconds the moment they see you, I always tell my kids, like, you're presenting yourself to the world.
Yeah.
So how do you want the world to respond to you?
Totally.
So that's what we talk about when we just walk out based on how we look, right? But it's the same with your home. You're presenting yourself to the world. How do you want the world to respond to you? The state of your home reflects the state of your life and how much you care about your life.
And I see that as similar to how much you care about yourself, how you present yourself, how you take care of your body, your physical, mental, spiritual, emotional health. Like how much you actually care about yourself is going to be received energetically. And just like you said, that initial judgment, we can say, oh, don't judge people, but it's human nature to make a first impression.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens. That first impression is real. Like it's, you know.
So when you start caring for your home, and I'm saying caring for it in a way of decluttering because it's an easy thing to start caring for your home. Really what you're saying to like the universe energetically is I'm really going to start caring for myself.
Yes, I love it.
And a cluttered home creates a cluttered mind, right? And then clutter is like packing yourself full of food. It's an energetic protection, right?
Yes, I love that.
Like me, when they see me. So that's what body weight is a lot of times. And that's also what a cluttered home is if I cluttered up, maybe no one will see me.
Wow.
What happens if they do? Because they're seeing you anyways.
That's really deep.
Want to show up. Days, I can really bring it.
I love that though, because that just really resonates with me. And it goes back to that whole, how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? So if you're respecting your home and your space, you do start respecting just yourself overall, because you're like, wow, my house is clean. It feels really good. And then it will start to move into other areas of your life. So I love that idea. Like if you're someone that feels like you don't know where to start with your, you know, when I look at it with health, people will be like, well, I'm just unhealthy. I'm overweight. I'm unhappy. I'm depressed. I'm burnt. Like, where do I start? It's like, do we start with the nutrition? Do we start with getting you moving? Do we start with the emotional? And it really does depend on the person. But I always, you know, want to gravitate toward like, first you need the fuel. So that means that we need to start cleaning up how you're eating and treating your body with love and eating better to have the energy to start doing other things. So when it comes to just your overall life is what I'm hearing, like everything, start with your home, like relationships and all of that.
And I think that's really actually where this journey took me is I got into a lot of personal development work and corporate team growth and stuff. But what I'd never bring I wouldn't bring as much into that conversation as the Feng Shui. And then finally, I just launched an online Feng Shui program because I've been asked about it so much, but I also know that it's a foundation. Like, I called it foundational Feng Shui because it's a foundation for how you're going to live your life. And then your life includes your business. Yeah. Your life includes your relationships. Your life includes your health and well-being. And so I knew I had to bring it back and teach it again in a bigger format because my conversation kept going back to it because it's foundational for us. Like, everybody knows their Feng Shui job at my house. Right? Like, they all understand. Like, it's an innate part of how we operate. We moved, to 4 different homes in like 8 years. And like, everybody knew their Feng Shui job when we showed up, right? Because it's the energetics of it that matters. It matters for your personal energetics, which means it matters for your mental energy, it matters for your physical energy, and it matters for your spiritual connection, right? So if you can create a foundation in your space to win, why wouldn't you? Totally. So it just starts with decluttering. Love your home up a little bit. And while you're loving your home up, you're loving yourself up. Right. And you can argue with me all day long. It doesn't matter how it looks. I don't care. Whatever. Well, if you don't care, that's great. But then you can't complain about any part of your life. Right?
Yeah. And we have, similar philosophies there. It's more about like just taking action. No matter where you're at, there's something you can do. Even if you're crawling, I say, like, if you are just doing one small thing today, that's better than sitting there doing absolutely nothing, feeling powerless over your life, right?
Yeah. Like, this is a good point because I can drive it home because I know there's a lot of women out there who are burnt out that are listening to this. I had severe adrenal fatigue, ended up in the hospital, hired a functional medicine doctor. He said, I need you to take a year off of your life. You will lie on that couch, you will get your kids to school, you will keep them alive, you will go to the grocery store, and that's it. You say no to everything else. But I will tell you the one thing that I did through that whole year, besides all the protocol, right, that I was supposed to do, I kept my house immaculate. So I have cleaning ladies who come in every 2 weeks because that's important to me. That is one thing that I use as assistance in my life, but you still have to clean. The house does not implode when they're not here. And every child makes their bed and has their room cleaned in the morning. My bedroom is, I had somebody come in my house the other day. They're like, do you live here? I live here. They're like, you really have 3 kids? Yes, I really have 3 kids. And this is when they were young too. I said, yeah. This is my life. Yeah. But I will tell you that I was on the couch, and because I had decluttered, because everything had its spot, then everything just got put back away and the home always stayed clean because I knew that was the energy I needed, even though I was laying on the couch. Like, I didn't let it fall apart. Yeah. Because that's how important it is that it doesn't. And I know that your house may be in a state you don't want it. So start slow. Do what you can. You will build momentum, and ask the people in your family, if you have people with you, to help.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's a big one, especially for people with kids, because I know that I have to, fight them basically, like, to clean up their space, but I'm getting really a lot better about being on top of it, so to speak, without, feeling like I have to constantly follow them around everywhere, which is what happens because they'll be doing one thing in one room and walk to another one and destroy that room. It's like, come back here. So, and also our husbands, like, getting them on, right? Like, yes. My husband is notorious. I love him, but for just leaving tools and stuff where they don't belong and just little things like that. So it's like, or like leaving his nightstand cluttered up. So like talking about energetically in the room, like in the sleeping areas and everything like that, trying to get him on board, and he just rolls his eyes. Like, that is not Feng Shui. You need to declutter that nightstand.
That's not working for me, honey. That's a good to do in our bedroom, if you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, you're messing with the energy in here.
Yeah, so. Yeah. I always find with men, if you talk about the fact that, Feng Shui and shifting the energy will bring more money and sex, usually they're on board.
That's awesome.
Let's be honest. Like, it doesn't take much. And I get phone calls home from the guys on my husband's rig crew about Feng Shui questions because they want to make more money and find a girlfriend. I'm like, okay.
That is
phone me.
Amazing.
Right? But I'll talk a little bit about that because I do have 3 kids and I understand what it is. I will tell you that there's an agreement that's made that this is my home and this is how your space is going to be.
Yeah.
everything. So I helped them get it set up, obviously, like they were little. But I will tell you, my 17-year-old, I could take this camera down and show you her closet right now in her room, and it looks show home ready, because that is the agreement that's made is you live here. This is how the expectation of your space. Does it mean the odd time there's a little pile in the closet? Sure. But I'll go in and check every once in a while. And all I got to say is I walked in that closet, sweetheart. She's like, okay. Right? And it doesn't, but you don't let it get bad, but she just knows that's the agreement. It's not an expectation. It's this is what happens in this house. Like, this is our house. It's not their house.
Yes.
Right? And then for my little girls, yes, they leave little stuff around. So I'll be like, hey, that doesn't go there. Take it back to where it goes. And if everything has a spot, you guys, that's when it changes, because it has somewhere to go. Kids know how to put things away. When they were little, I helped them. Yeah. Now they're 7 and 9. I call them back, and they realize that they will get called back every time until it's all put away. So now they just put it away because it's easier. And does that take some time, energy, and effort to get everybody to that state? For sure. But if you want your home a certain way, that's what it takes. I'm like the keeper of the energy of my home, and I'm happy to be that, right? But I also read one thing, Byron Katie, who I love, in the book Loving What Is, talks about, they would leave like the socks on the floor, and she would get really annoyed. And then it'd be like a story of, you're disrespecting me, right? And this whole thing would be made up in her mind about how disrespectful it was that they left the socks on the floor when she did the laundry and the basket was there. And like, you can see where mentally you go with it.
Yes.
As being disrespectful. And that's what you don't want to do. Like, I don't take it personally if somebody leaves their crap out. I just call them back to put it away. And if they're not here, I'll just go put it away, because you know what? That's how I want it.
Right.
This is my life. This is a home I want to reside in. So I'll do it if they're not here too. But I also won't get offended by it. So my husband was like, we call them like, he left like, my husband works away. And then when he would come home, it'd be like little puddles of stuff. Rip through the house, and coffee cups. And like, my dad would come and he'd go, it's like he leaves like puddles. I'm like, I know, I don't get it. And so eventually, when he got called back enough to clean up the puddles, now he doesn't leave them. And I also helped him find a way to have his things in a certain order. Like, we created space for them. You have to set everybody up for a win for this, right? Which means you might have to do a little bit of work to make that happen. But if you want it bad enough, you will. And that's what everything in life comes down to is you have to have a reason why that's big enough to motivate you to take the action.
And I love what you're saying there, because to me, again, this goes back to this empowerment thing about with women who will, I'll hear women say, well, I'm hesitant to go onto this healthier eating path because my kids and my husband won't eat this way. Or my kids and my husband are the reason why my house looks like this. But that, again, is a very disempowering way to live. So I encourage shifting out of that as looking like, am I going to be the leader? Am I going to set the tone for this family? Am I going to, with eating healthier foods, how can you incorporate your kids into that, letting them help you make the meals? And so with that, it's like, to me, it's being more empowered in your life to say, you know what, I want something different. That doesn't mean I have to do it all on my own, but I'm going to be the leader. And like you said, you hire someone to help you with the house cleaning, and you keep that energy in the home. So where would you say, for the listeners, where would be a good place for them to start getting their husbands and children, if they have children, on board? Where would be a good place to start if maybe it's gotten to this place where they're realizing, oh my goodness, this is a big undertaking? Yeah. Where can they start? Because you said you've been doing this all along because it's been part of your life. Yeah. So those that are kind of on board and they're like, okay, yeah, I see this is a problem. How do they get their families on board?
Well, we do this regularly, right? So even though it's ongoing, you have to realize that like things sneak in. Clutter is like, bunnies that won't stop multiplying. Like, it just happens. Like, I really watch, and I'm always amazed. And just as kids outgrow things, you miss some of it in their closet. So where I would start with everybody, it's a little harder for women, but for men, typically their closet isn't a big issue to them. So it's like, start there. Like, anything you haven't worn in the past year, you're likely not going to wear again. right? Like my husband had a suit. I just talked about this in my program. My husband had a suit. It was like 6 years old or more. And I'm like, dude, why do you have that? Like I was looking
at wear it
a few weeks ago, right? And he barely has anything in there. And I'm like, you're not wearing this. Well, our daughter's grad is coming up.
You're not wearing this.
Oh, hell no.
Like going for a new one for that's this year updated version.
Maybe we'll update it a little, or just a shirt and pants. But so a closet's an easy one to start. So you just start with if you haven't worn it in the last year, if that's too hard for somebody in the last 2 years, it's time to let it go. If it's ripped or stained, it's time to let it go. If the jeans are totally out of style, it's time to let them go. That's an easy place for men to start. That's an easy place for kids to start, depending on their age. If you have really young kids. So I went into a home once years ago, and I was walking through knee-deep toys, in a room. I have never, that one and only experience. And she goes, oh, the kids will never give anything up. I'm like, okay. And they were 4, maybe 5 and 3, right? And I'm like, okay, get me 2 bins. She's like, what? I'm like, just go get me 2 bins. So she went and got me 2 bins, and I said to the kids, by the time I get back, I want 2 bins full. I want you to put everything you really love, really, really love, in one bin. And I want you to put the things that you could donate and let somebody else love it in the other. And I said, okay, we'll leave them and we'll continue looking through the house, because I was doing an in-home Feng Shui consultation at that point. And so she goes, they're never going to do it. I said, oh, they will. She's like, no, there's no way they'll give anything away. We came back, the bins were overflowing.
Oh my gosh.
Kids get it, right? So the thing is if you have young kids, just do that. Put everything you really love in a pile, and put some things that you could give to another kid in this other pile. See what they'll do. Allow them to be part of it, right? And then, as little kids, you have to manage a lot of their things. And then as they get older, now my kids, 7 and 9, go through their own closets. They do it first once themselves, and then I quickly go through again. And then for toys, in the fall, we usually do it. And in the spring, I'll say, Kate, get into the toy areas and pick out the things you guys don't play with anymore. And they do a really good job of picking, right? And if they're not sure, I let them keep it. This isn't like a fight, right? Because what I'll tell you about decluttering, you guys, is if you think you're going to need it later on, I guarantee you'll create a situation where you'll need it. Yeah. For sure, 100%. So don't go there with your mind. But that's an easy place to get everybody going, is that, even winter coats and boots and shoes, just get everybody to try their stuff on. Yeah. Easy places. Start easy, right? And then you work your way into the harder stuff. If your partner's really resistant, don't worry about it. My husband hated it to begin with. Wouldn't do it. Until my 3rd round through the house, and then all of a sudden I noticed he was down there beside me going through his bins. At this point, he had 10 Rubbermaids, and myself and my 3 kids didn't even have that many, right? And so he got prompted eventually. You can't choose for somebody else, but you can choose for you. And what I'm telling you is and what you said is true, is you need to be a leader, not a savior. But I will tell you that adrenal fatigue and burnout, which I'm sure Leanne has told you guys before, it comes from people pleasing. So if you are choosing not to do a diet that you need, if you're choosing not to declutter your house because of somebody else, you're in a way just people pleasing and saying yes to everybody else but you.
Oh, totally. And I see that right away. And I know there are women that do struggle with that, obviously, because when I'm working with them, oftentimes they're not in their power, right? They've chosen not to be. And so the way I see it is that I help them come back to that. We all have it within us. We just sometimes lose connection with that. Yeah. And we stop giving a crap too. That's another emotional connection with adrenal fatigue, is just stop giving a crap, because it's just screw it, right? It's like a giving up on the self, basically, right? It's just right? You just hit that wall. But then those are kind of excuses. I don't eat well because my kids won't eat quinoa or vegetables, or, well, maybe now's the time to start introducing them to these things, healthy eating, nutritious, why we're eating these things. This is why we're doing it, right?
Yeah. Oh, I had a very strict protocol. So I would have to make what I made, and then I'd make a version of things for everybody else. But we have some interesting diets at our house. So we have gluten-free and dairy-free and the whole 9. But my kids don't even really question it anymore. And my husband, he just morphed into what we were eating. Because I basically said to him, You don't like it? There is the stove. Knock yourself out.
I love it. Yeah.
Well, like, what are you going to do? It's like, the food tastes good. Like, I know it tastes good, but if this is not for you, or if you need creamy pasta, like, that child's going to throw up. That child's going to have gut issues. I can't eat it. There's the store. There's the stove.
Yeah.
Like, go for it.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm also saying in your space is if your partner's not on board, do your own stuff.
Yeah.
You're allowed to take care of your own things.
Yeah.
And then let them decide for them, because convincing somebody is a waste of your time, energy, and effort.
Totally.
And
that's why I love this and chatting with you about this, because I just see this common thread that runs through this. That's why you say you keep coming back to it, because I do believe it's very foundational, and our home is meant to be our sacred space. Like, when we come home, that should be like our safe haven, sets the tone for our life, our morning, our night, everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as we're talking, I just see how this so much spills over into the health and the wellness and how we take care of our physical bodies. And that was why I wanted to have you on, because it's just, to me, it's something I love, but you are definitely the queen of Feng Shui. And I would recommend, and I do recommend, all of my clients who are interested in learning more about this to come and check out your stuff. Now, one question I have before we stop the chat is, what is one Thrive tip that you have for women? It can be about Feng Shui, home life, wellness, relationships, however, whatever direction. What is one Thrive tip you could give to women that could, they could start taking action with and making a difference in their life?
Well, I think it's that big one that we talked about near the beginning, and the one that you referenced saying, when you heard me say it meant something to you, was the fact that the state of your home reflects the state of your life. So if you're in your home right now, take a look around and ask yourself, is this the life that I want? Is this who I am? Is this who I want to become? If you're not at home, close your eyes. And if you're not driving, close your eyes and envision your home. Is this the home and life that I want? Is this who I want to become? Does this allow me to create the life that I desire? And if it doesn't, then one step at a time, start creating this space and start with decluttering, because even if you jumped into Feng Shui, I'd have you right back at decluttering, okay? Start with decluttering it and creating what it is you truly want, and realize that every choice is yours.
Yes, and I can see how this really would start to open the door for people, like if they started with this, how it would start to creep into other areas in a positive way, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a total reflection, like your outer world is a reflection of what's going on inside of you. And so I just absolutely love all this stuff. And I really, really appreciate your time and that you came on here and shared your wisdom with everybody here at the Thrive Podcast. And so where can the listeners find you if they'd like to learn more about you, your services, your programs, what you have to offer?
So you can find me. I have a podcast. It's called Ninja Jill Knows. So we talk a lot about mindset and strategy and energetic tools and techniques to move your life forward and inevitably your business, your relationships, and your health and well-being forward. You can find me online at my website at jillethier.com, which I'm sure there'll be a link for you. Or, find me on Facebook. There's my personal feed. I have a business page there as well, and I have a private group called Life Makers. So those are ways that you can find me, or you can always email me at jill@jillethier.com, and I'd love to hear from you. So if you have Feng Shui questions, ask away. If you have energetic questions, ask away. If you want to hear a little bit more about who I am and what I'm about, that is definitely where you can hook up with me.
That is awesome. And I definitely will add some of those links to the show notes. And once again, thank you so much, Jill, for coming on the show. I'm sure we'll have you back again and cover some other layers.
Great. I'm so glad that you asked. And Thrivers, get out there and declutter your space. Do you love it or do you use it?
Awesome. Awesome tips, Jill. Thank you so much.